Hello and welcome to Building Your T-Shirt Empire. My name is Cole and this is Gavin. Gavin, say hello to the people.
Hey, what's up, people? It is Gavin here, founder of SEPS and T-Shirt Business Podcast.
So this week we have Victor Peña from Omniprint. Victor, can you just give us a quick rundown of what your company does?
Yeah, definitely. What's up, guys? Super good to be here with you guys. I feel we always have a great conversation because we're both about delivering the most value to people listening. And for people that don't know who I am, I run Omniprint International, and we empower business owners globally to thrive with print on demand. And we're one of the leaders in manufacturing direct-to-garment printers, direct-to-film. Now we have embroidery and also, e-com software. And we cater to those creators out there. So super good to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time. What do you think are like the key factors to consider when somebody's building a successful sales team for either a digital apparel printing business or for you where you're building a business that supports those printers out there? What is the key to making a successful sales team and not just an overpaid sales team?
I've had all of that. So the reality is, and it's something that I like to do because I'm only here talking about legit experiences that I'm either going through now, been through, and learn from that way. We can keep things real. I feel there's like a ton of stuff on the internet where people are just kind of repeating what they hear, and it really kind of prevents people from learning, right? So, you're going right to it. You're talking about how to build a successful team when it comes to your sales department. And what I could tell you is you're going to have different seasons with different teams. Okay. So for example, depending on the level and growth of your business, at the beginning, you have kind of a core team that you kind of assemble, let's just put it like this. You're like the same kind of misfits going through the same goal, right? And you're like, hey, let's have this idea, and you want to do it with me? Yeah, okay, cool. That's going to be like your same, I guess, your initial team.
Yeah.
Right. So I see that a lot because at the beginning, let's say it's from $0 to like $1,000,000. All you're trying to do, figure out if what you're selling or doing actually is working, right? Like does anyone more than your grandma and like your distant cousin want to buy it? And then that's kind of how you start. And normally you don't know how to hire you, and you don't know who's a good team member and who's not a good team member.
Yeah.
So I would think about these different seasons because I've been through that, right? And then as you grow, you start figuring out, okay, well, what do I want? What do I visualize this sales team to be? And it gets super granular. It gets very professional. It gets different where the initial team, unless they don't go to events and level up their mindset, they're not going to make it.
Yeah. And speaking of that, automation and software side of the sales team, what are you guys using to reach out to clients consistently besides maybe just like the most basic CRM? And then follow-up question, have you been playing with optimizing that with any sort of AI yet?
Yeah, so as you guys know from knowing me a little bit, I'm a huge nerd. So we've been kind of leaning into all this stuff since the beginning. We started like AI's been in our marketing, it's in our HR, it's in our sales, it's there now, right? All I'm doing is how can we implement this practically to help people get things done faster and better, right? So we're implementing it on that. When it comes to sales, you're going to see it in our copy. You're going to see it in our scripts. Soon, you're going to see it in our support. We just got to figure out what's the best way to use it.
Yeah. I mean, in the support, that's kind of one of the things that scares a lot of people with a scripted type of customer support job. How are you planning on using it to make the customer experience better? And what will that look like besides just like plugging Chat GPT into being allowed to do anything it wants? Have you figured out at all how you're going to control the parameters of that, and how far away do you think that'll be?
AI's been here for a while, but what happens is before you had to develop the flows. So you have to say, hey, if the customer asks this question, I have these available answers. Otherwise, I'm broken. Right? Move to a rep. But now GPT-4 will be able to make its own decisions. So for example, we're going to do, and I'm telling you guys as a example of our process, what we're going to do is we're connecting it to our existing cases and our existing conversations that have happened for years. And its job is to go look through that and suggest what's the result and what are the best answers for this client in an NLP way. So it's not, it's a natural language, right? So it's not like, oh, here I'm stuck. It's going to go read from experience, learn, and then it's going to start learning from itself. And then it's going to start reiterating from these kind of things until it comes and knocks on your door and kicks you out of your shop.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Gavin about some of that stuff. Gavin, are you playing with that at all right now for SEPs?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I actually was a little bit hesitant. One, because naturally I have guys that works overseas and they was pushing back against that. They pushed back again,
Right.
hey, because they felt like some of these may be a threat to their job. And so I had to do a lot of just like, hey, we have to either embrace this or somebody else will. Like,
Right.
somebody else will. So that was the conversation I had. We actually just internally just have one person that's just learning as much tools as possible and then coming back to me and just kind of like teach me. I get to play with some of them, but building a growing company, so I don't have time to just sit around and just play all the time. So that's one strategy, just to assign like a champion to just do that. So look at all the image generator tools that's out there and see how that could come into play. Look at Midjourney. I think I was, I didn't even know about Adobe Illustrator's, what you call it, Firefly, until you told me about it. So I was like, man, how did I miss that? So we've been playing around with that.
Yeah. And Omniprint is kind of built for that system. Like I've been seeing a lot of people online just going and using something like Midjourney, telling it to make cool looking graphic of a pony and then selling it as print on demand.
Yeah.
How have you been seeing that interact with your existing print shops that are your clients? And is that mostly getting fulfilled by DTG and DTF since it is like so one-off and random?
Yeah, it's super random. So what I'm seeing is just like anything, it's a tool. Okay. So there's this level of hype right now where the people that are really crushing it right now are selling the courses because they're like a month or two ahead of a user, right? So they're setting up courses, they're doing these things and all that. That's what happens. Then some users start adopting it, and it's all about what you can create as the creator.
Yeah.
And what are those prompts? If you don't have it, it's still going to be difficult, right? So I think this is going to make a creative designer way more powerful because they can do more. But for example, me, I'm not as good when it comes to the actual creation of images. I can come up with the concepts and ideas and visualize that. We're going to start seeing more of that as people can really make money from it besides just the course creators right now. So it's coming. We are seeing it. And, it's just going to make people more powerful to be able to iterate. Imagine you can, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to spend some time making 2-3 images, and then I might have like delayed it a whole month. I can whip up 300 and figure out what ships and what sells better way faster, and then lean into the top 10 of those, so that's what we're going to see. And a lot of that you have to do on demand. You have to do either a transfer or you have to do direct to garment until you get enough volume where you can screen print and do other higher volume stuff.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about kind of the state of the industry for DTG and DTF. Like, what is the expected cost per unit now on average? What's the speeds that your machines are hitting? What's kind of the current state? Right now, I'm running something that I think they released it in 2016. So I'd love to hear more about like what the machines have advanced onto.
I'm super pumped when you come over because I could show you all the top secret stuff too.
Cool.
But the reality is things are going, we're always pushing to like break things and break ourselves, right? So for example, DTF transfers are just blowing up, taking over, right? Luckily for us, we kind of leaned into that, back in 2020, 2021, but we're seeing a lot of uses like secondary print locations, a lot of like selling to other creators. And then direct to garments holding strong if I want to full front, if I want like images that are now vectorized, that are fading into the shirt, good feel and all that, or going into direct to garment. But definitely, DTF is here, been here, and I think it's going to keep growing just because of the removal of pre-treat and the availability for others to sell to like somebody down the street that doesn't have a printer. So that's super powerful. Like the micro markets, I'm seeing people selling transfers to each other like crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if this is maybe your exact expertise, but I've noticed color shifts when you DTG and then you DTF the identical art, even with the same print head, because a lot of machines have like an Epson print head.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a different color out of the DTF transfer than I am the direct to garment with a pre-treat underbase. Have you guys seen that kind of issue? And does that come down to film quality? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the main differences about us is that we control everything from our ink formulations to the profiling to software and all of that. So we're fully integrated because we want to make sure that some of these things, when they come up, we know how to deal with them, right? So for example, when you don't profile and you just use, for example, hey, I'm gonna throw ink on this film now instead of the t-shirt, you're gonna see a different color because there's different densities in the pigments that are being used. So your colors are gonna shift for sure. And then the secret sauce, or I guess the moving target right now, is that all films are kind of like moving a little bit when it comes to their, they're kind of different on each batch, right? They might even be different on each batch inside the same pack. That's just because how, it's not a mature coding, it's not a mature system yet. There's ones that are better than others, right? But you have to be able to dial back your profiles in a way where that that's the case, and then you can just move on. What I would recommend, if you don't have a way to match profiles, try not to run the same image, the same job on different technologies, because it's going to be different.
So what have you noticed are good ways to leverage social media? I know you guys put out a ton of content. What are kind of the tips and tricks you would recommend to people in the social media space to get attention that actually converts and isn't just random like?
I'll tell you this from my own experience, because it's not something that I wanted to do, right? To be honest, it's like it's a must for every single person, right? I'm the guy that had like 2 followers, and like one was my mom and one was my wife, but in order to get your product out and your business out, number one, you just got to get away from trying to find ROI from the get-go, okay? Because you're not going to see it when it comes to what am I posting and did this user go and buy, right? What I would do is always make sure that you have macro analytics set up on your Google Analytics properly. And you look at, what am I doing with my traffic before I start going ham on social? And what's my traffic doing after? Because from traffic, you'll get conversions. But if you're not set up properly, which most people are not, with your tag manager and Google Analytics and all that stuff, make sure that that's on point. Because then if you zoom out and you start looking at it by quarter, if you start looking at it by traffic, you'll see that the conversions are there. And at the end of the day, think about it like this. These are eyeballs that are unpaid, that are free, that are going to look at what you're posting, what that content is. That's number one. Number two, just be conscious of what you're doing as your posting strategy, so that that the kind of user that's looking at your stuff is going to be into doing business with you. They're going to want to figure out, okay, what's Cole about? For me, people know that I'm about business, real estate, going beast mode, working out, hanging out with my wife. And then these are my main pillars. And then like posting my retriever on social. And pretty much that's what I'm building my personal brand around. So those are kind of the things where you got to look at. If you're only posting food videos and your business is unrelated to food, then you're going to have a hard time looking at it in a macro in your analytics and figuring out if that's doing anything for you.
Look, art is hard.
As an owner, I was very wary of letting go of that separation from in-house.
So if you're thinking about an outsourced art department, I would highly recommend seps.io.
It's taken a big load off my plate.
Now we're getting ahead of our schedule. Everything has been automated.
We love that we know that we can submit something and we get it within 24 hours.
So the process with Steps is actually super simple. You log into your online account and then you just put in all the information needed.
And we found out since working with you guys, you helped us standardize. Really, we work 5-10 times faster outsourcing.
I ran a screen printing shop for 7 years. And that's why we created SEPs, to be the simplest remote art department for screen printing shops. It's all about saving shop owners time and helping them run an efficient and lean shop.
So, I mean, you mentioned the real estate, and I think I've seen you in pictures with like Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
Did you start doing that stuff because you were successful with Omniprint and you felt like you wanted to deploy the capital elsewhere? Or were you doing that from the get-go? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I grew up, I came from Mexico when I was 7 years old. And, we pretty much grew up doing construction. And what I would see is that, maybe I was the electrician or the plumber at that point, but you would see dudes roll up and they were showing their hot wife, and they roll up in their hot car and they would show what they were going to do with this property, right? And so that was it was stability for me long term, because the number one thing that I saw is that people that take their earned income and they put it into an investment like real estate, they tend to be like the biggest winners, the biggest organizations go into for example, multifamily apartments, which is what I invest in. And I think that every shop owner, as soon as they can get some profit, they should start moving it into apartments. So that's exactly what I did. As soon as I made some profit, I was okay going broke every single year, moving that money over to a long-term solid investment where people need somewhere to rent. My apartments are, 2-3 bedrooms. They're all in Vegas for the most part. And people need to live somewhere. And, I've been doing that since 2014, pretty much. And I believe in it so much. And it's like the number one thing that you guys can do as an entrepreneur is start building your investments outside the business, because it will make you a better business owner. And then on top of that, there's so many tax efficiencies and all these things that you can leverage for your business that'll help you grow and scale it.
Are you nervous at all about maybe an upcoming downturn? I mean, if you have multiple mortgages or you have the business and then your business relies on other small businesses that need to be successful so you can keep selling them supplies, are you seeing any sort of downturn coming, or do you feel pretty confident in how you've built it all?
I'm crazy paranoid. I feel like we're going down in flames every single day. The reality is, in all of our real estate, we have their construction workers, the working class. These are not like super high-end places. It's a positive place to live. Our 2-bedroom apartments in Vegas, we rent them out for $1,200, right? Which we can't even do a closet in Cali for that. And so we just raise rents on all of our apartments. And nobody did anything, right? So people are going to need somewhere to live, and so that's important. And multifamily apartments are interesting because they're micro businesses in their own that pay their own bills, and we have stable mortgages on them and all that, so they just handle. So I'm not worried about that at all. In fact, I'm like looking for more deals to do, right? And then when it comes to business, and it's the same thing that we're doing, is we're figuring out where the waste is. Every business owner, you got to look at when you're in peacetime or when you're in wartime. You got to realize that there's economic shifts that happen and cycles. So yeah, I'm always kind of in that mode. So the main thing is for me right now is to continue doing that, and then also my team pouring into the ones that need more leadership, they need more training, so that you're not the only one in the business doing all of the stressing and the pushing forward.
You would say right now you're at a good position in your life, right? At least business life, right?
Yeah.
We could see that you've built a successful company in the industry. You're doing your real estate thing. You got things in place, right? What I'm always curious about this because a lot of people, we are all trying to climb this ladder, right? What were some of like the pivotal moments for you to get to where you are? Like what was like some of the actions that, man, I did this and that just like you talked about ROI, that gave me so much return on investment. Even if it was like, what was a couple of those things that you did maybe early on? Because I know a lot of folks that even if they just starting out, they got this big dream, but the map in front of them is not clear.
I've always looked for that silver bullet because I thought that that's what that is, right? All of a sudden you get this big deal. All of a sudden you get this one thing, and boom, you're like set, right? But the reality is that it's incremental versus like monumental. That's been the reality, right? What you're doing on an everyday basis will turn into that thing. There's like no big, huge deal that's ever done it for me, right? Maybe there have been for others, but having said that, what I did do is I leaned into marketing. I leaned into social media. I got in the way of the trends. And of course, I could have done it bigger, better, but I invested in content. I invested in doing those things. I like every business owner needs to do the things that they don't want to do, that they're uncomfortable with. Yeah. If it's like the ratchet, or if it's the pivotal moment that's going to get you there, because if I wouldn't have done that, then there's no YouTube views. There's no people connecting with me. There's no people connecting with the brand. And when somebody would see us at a trade show, they wouldn't be like, hey, yeah, I saw you on YouTube, or I saw you here. People are going to see you 7 to 11 times minimum before they decide, you know what, maybe Gavin's going to be the guy, right? Mm-hmm. So you just got to give them that kind of content. And I would say that's like the number one pivotal thing. And I remember this because there was no studio. There was no good camera that we had. I did the first video in like the conference room. Like it was really bad. And then I remember telling the team, I'm like, hey, dude, if I'm going to do this, you guys better back it up and you guys better crush it, because this is not something that I want to do, you know? So that was a big moment.
So glad you talk about this. Is selfishly, by the way. So you going through this, how did you plan this out? Like, first of all, what type of person, like, are you good in front of the camera?
No, I'm good. I'm a recovering engineer. So, you know, I'm not the influencer type, I'm a driver stabilizer type. So it's going to be way harder for me to be great on camera, you know, and all of that. Right. But the way that I did it is just training. And I gave myself like the different steps that I need to do in a certain interview so that I can, or on a content piece, so that I can be good and okay if I'm delivering value to the listener.
Gotcha. So you wrote out what you was going to talk about. Let's say if it's a 10-minute video, you outline it.
Yeah, 100%. I have this formula. So if it's like I've done a 60-second thing, 60-minute, 2 hours, whatever. You know, one Zoom we did for 8 hours in COVID, the first one in our industry, and that was brutal. It's all in the framework. So why should somebody listen, and what kind of value are you going to give them so that they can lean into what you're saying? And then they got to have that takeaway. I tell people to be selfish and get some takeaways so they can go implement in their business.
Tell me a little bit more about the structure of doing like a live stream, and also because it is one of those things where it's wildly interactive and you have something to sell to the customer. How have you felt the results have been compared to just content that lives online forever?
We use this content later, right? So we do have a lot of that content that's tons of value. But for example, we went into it by delivering actionable, interactive learning from amazing speakers and people that are going to, you know, empower people to grow, right? So we went in with that premise. The first event, guys, this is how good and bad we were, right? This was COVID, April 16th. We marketed in 2 weeks. We had like a 60% show up rate or something like that, which was nuts. And it went for 8 hours.
Was this a free event?
This was free. Yeah, this was free. I didn't know about doing live events. In fact, most people didn't, virtuals and all that.
Yeah.
This was literally like at the shutdown. And basically, like all we did was show people different things of sales, marketing, even design, like a few different topics that people wanted to learn about for free. Yeah. And they just consumed it like crazy. I didn't even know about upsells. I didn't know about any of that stuff. Like I didn't focus on that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have executed it, right? It would have been like, oh, what do we offer? This, no, you know what? We're offering value first, and like getting people to think about what they can do versus like, you know, what's going on in the world, right? So then we had like at the highest, there was like 1,000 people on there, you know, thousands of people registered. So at the end of the day, we got leads and we got that stuff. But then we learned on how to do the first one. Then we did the second one. We had Damon John on there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we had Jesse Itzler, Grant Cardone, Brandon Dawson came on. Like that's all crazy things that I would have thought I never would have done in the t-shirt space. But then we figured out, okay, well, you know what? Let's throw in a testimonial of people that are winning, and then let's throw in, you know, why don't we give people an offer if people want to get started in the business or expand? And then we did that. We just, you know, started iterating on that stuff from zero. But it all that comes in, like in the execution, just starting it out, because it can get kind of complex. Yeah. With scheduling and speakers, and you know, I'm kind of nuts where I want 2 or 3 camera angles, and I want everything recorded for later, and then we got to chop it up, you know, and all of that, and the funnels and everything that it takes to get it done.
And so talk a little bit about the funnel on the front end of that. Are you purchasing an advertisement for them to then do like a free sign up for the event, and then you send them an email with the link? Or are you just blasting it on social over and over?
We haven't done paid ads for our events because there's so much value in it for free. So we'll do like a free event, and it's just to our list and on social. And then from there we go, if people want to be VIPs, we have a VIP upsell in the funnel. And it's also super cheap, right? I do stuff in the real estate space where like an event's 10 grand. Some people pay like 100 grand. And then here we are doing similar amount of work for $97. Starts at free, right? So free, you go into the funnel for free. You opt in for like $97 for VIP. And then if you want to do business with us, we'll have like discounts and offers that'll be an upsell in the event, you know, but that's typically how we do it. I think we might change it up a little bit, where if I do paid ads, you know, the speakers are kind of expensive and all that. So we'll do maybe a paid version, and then maybe like a mastermind workshop version where you're actually hanging out with us for 2 days, actually learning, getting hands-on, and all that, because education is going to be big, and we're going to lean into it more and more.
Yeah, and I mean, we used to do some classes that were just screen printing classes, and the biggest thing that I always noticed was that people would follow up with me like a year later with a random question. Do you just kind of see that support as kind of the cost of doing business, or do you funnel that, you know, if you're using my equipment, then I support you, otherwise, like I don't know what to tell you? Like, how do you kind of handle that if you have that many calls just wanting something from you? How do you like say no and say yes and make it fair?
Honestly, I had to learn the hard way, because it got really time consuming for me, because I get DMs all the time. People are like, hey, let me take you to coffee. Let me pick your brain. I was like, you know, that's when I know. So what I ended up doing is, you know, I do like business mentorships, and I just put a fee behind it, and it's not cheap. And I know that the right people, if they pay attention. If they pay, they will do the things, and they will use the advice that you're giving them. I've given people gold advice that's cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn, if not millions over time, and they won't go and implement it, right? So the right person, I just have that toll bridge right now, right? So that's how I ended up implementing it in my life, and it's worked out. And I'm going to lean into more of that too, because I actually want to do more educational stuff, events, masterminds, but high mindset people, like, for example, like you guys do. I'd love to do a mastermind and event where it's like you guys value the learning and the education and all that stuff. And the right people do.
It's interesting. You get exposed to so many small businesses, and you have people that are doing, like, they'd be thrilled to do $2,000 a month because they're absolutely starting and they just want to like supplement their existing income. Then you have people that might be trapped at 100,000 a year and they feel like by the time they pay their expenses, they're not really paying themselves well. And then there's like local shops that they feel like they're not growing either. What do you kind of see that really changes a shop from able to make a little bit of money and they're not failing to just completely breaking through and having the ability to grow to 15, 20, 50 employees? What is that breakthrough that those smaller people are just missing other than maybe time?
That is a great question. And I'm going to break it down to two main things. So the two main reasons why shops don't grow is, number one, mindset. The mindset of the owner, people involved, doesn't allow them to do the things that are required to grow. And number two is investments, specifically investments in growth and education. Because of the limiting beliefs and the limiting mindset, they won't spend the money and throw it on the card, throw it on whatever, to learn, how do I get from 100,000 to $1 million? They won't spend $997 or $9,997 to get to $1 million. But I can tell you the number one way that a shop owner can get to $1 million is by going to pay a millionaire that's making $1 million, and then they'll show them how to do it. It's crazy. Like, I wish I would have known this like early on, because those are limiting beliefs that I grew up with, that I had to shake off. And I feel a lot of people, business owners, don't get past these $2,000, or, oh, why am I paying this much for this course or whatever, when you know it's going to get you to the next level. I don't get it, you know.
I'm actually this is spot on. I'm actually reading a book right now that's called Who, Not How, right? So a lot of us, like entrepreneurs or small business owners, we're craftsmen, right? We learn how to screen print. We learn how to do this. We learn how to do that. And there's only so much time that there is in the day, right? For you to learn everything, right? Like what he says, like in this book, what they're prescribing in this book is, whenever you like reach like a plateau and wherever you're going, don't think, how can I get to the next thing that you're trying to reach? Think, who could help you get to that? Because that person has already experienced all of the pain already, right? And a lot of times they're more than willing to share advice for payment and share what they've done already, right? So problems are solved by other people. And especially if you're building a business, you're not going to be great at marketing. You're not going to be great at sales, operations, HR, all of those. That's not one person's job. You need other people to do that, and just go focus on what you're truly good at. So that's spot on.
So I'll tell you, like, I'll easily spend about $500,000 in my own mentorship combined when it comes to real estate and building a business and coaching. Right now I'm spending a lot of money on how do I create a highest performing team and help them win in the process, right? And that costs some money. Or how do I level up myself? And I'll keep doing that, right? For education. And I'm going to the people that are at the top that have already done it. Once you try to figure out how do you do all these KPIs, and how do you do the motivators, and how do you do the proper job descriptions and the proper compensation plans, and tie them back to the budget, and all these different things that you got to do to grow, to get to the next level, because the things that we did before are not going to get us to the next level. And the only way, either you spend all the time learning and trying to figure it out, which is brutal, or you find out who's done it, who knows how to do it, and they can help you do that. right?
Yeah.
And it's for a fee. It all goes back to the main thing. If you guys invest in your own education, you just pay up, then you'll get to the next level. And I just know that from my experiences and experiences that I've seen out there.
For that type of mentorship, especially on the higher level, do you come to them almost like they're a lawyer and you're like, here's my problems, how do we solve my problems, let's get the most we can out of our hour? Or do you come to them as kind of a relational thing where you're kind of checking in, but it's not really about optimizing return?
So think about it like this: you are paying for access, but you want to come with your most difficult and the most quality questions that you can. Like don't come in on like, hey, how do I do Facebook ads?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like come in with the top quality. One of my mentors, Brandon Dawson, he says like the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your results, right? So if you think about what those future results are that you want and what's the biggest hanging point to it, spend the time figuring out what those questions are, because that's the most valuable, right? The hardest part is really sitting down and figuring out what these questions are going to be. You know, you don't want to waste it.
I mean, I would have no idea what to ask some of those guys because they're kind of on an unrelatable level to me in a lot of ways. Yeah, I've been to a few of those weekend seminars where I've seen like Grant Cardone live and stuff. And if I had an hour with him, I'm not entirely sure what I would talk about.
Right?
Because
Seriously,
it's true that you're like, all right, well, you're real rich, so could you make me slightly rich? Like, you know, I don't know. It's like you're almost too far apart, I feel like sometimes when you think about those questions.
100%. That's why it's going to take you some time, but they're also going to be relatable, right? So I'll give you an example. So I started at zero because I learned all of my apartment investing from Grant. And I went from just looking at his YouTube channel and how it does the math, how to acquire them, how to start with a small deal and all of that, right? Not until you push and you do some deals and you have higher quality questions does it even make sense to do that kind of stuff, right?
Because you don't have the pain yet. You don't know.
No. So you're better off maybe joining in some of the coursework, joining in some of the like lower level products until you get there, right? That's what I did. All the stuff was free off of YouTube. So you don't need to, like, I can't go from zero and like expect to be great, you know? So you want to go from zero and fail at each level and stumble it, and then figure it out, because that's how you're going to learn. I tell you guys, like, full transparency, my main focus right now is stumbling through how to build the next generation of a high performance team, you know, and then also making them a whole bunch of money and then finding a way to make them partners, right? And that's incredibly complex. And so I'm figuring it out and you know, stumbling through that. And that's the next generation.
That's for the real estate side of your business?
For both.
Oh, wow.
You have to do it in all levels. So we have some compensation incentives, you know, for anybody that's like answering the phone. They can earn commissions. Let's say they have this trip coming up or they have something coming up. They could hustle and earn more, and you'll see who wants to do it. But now our main job is to show anybody from entry level what the ladder of success looks like for them in our business, all the way up to becoming a partner, right? Because they can actually do it. If they do the things that are required to grow in your organization, they should be able to do it.
I'm always curious about this because it's like, what is that magic number, like, where life just becomes easier money-wise? What is that? Because I don't know what that is. Even for me, I try to think about that. I'm like, at what point is it no longer hustle and it feels, you know, you're skating a little bit?
Yeah, it depends on you. It really does, because, for example, you could be in that mode where, for example, if all of your bills are paid, you're like not behind on anything, then you're gonna be pretty good. Your rent's paid, your family's good, and all that, right? But if you have like $1 billion dream and you have this vision to get there, because of how many people you can impact and what that could mean for you, then you're going to be always hungry to get to the next level, right? And then you're going to take the risks necessary to be able to get there, right? So it really depends on you. I could tell you this story, okay? It was a while ago. I was in tech before I started this business. I was in my early 20s, okay? And I think my salary was like 66 grand a year. I remember I come from pretty much nothing, and I thought I was rich. All right, I thought I was balling by that time, and so bills super low. You know, my grandma sold me her car for $700. It was crappy. I'm bored. I remember I was watching Mad Money and all of the Squawk Box and all these financial channels. I had no clue about any of it. All I knew is that all these people over there were playing with money and then getting rich doing it, right? So, but I'm over here, I'm done for the day, and then I'm bored, right? So it wasn't like it was happiness. If you don't get happiness from like everything's paid for and you got an itch, then you got to go for it, you know. So it's gonna be different. So
yeah, it depends.
Well, I know we don't have you for much longer, so I want to thank you so much for all your time. Is there anything that you want to let the people know is going on coming up that they should look into to either reach out to you or go to one of your events?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you for that. We'll be posting up. We have another workshop. It's like a print money system workshop. So tune in for those. If you want to lean into education, we're going to do more of these in the year. So you'll find them in our social media. You'll find them in our site. And if you want to learn more, just follow us at Omniprint International on YouTube, Instagram. We're posting all the time, all educational stuff. If you want to figure out how to do print on demand, you know, you want to do embroidery, direct to film transfers, DTG, all that stuff, just reach out, and that's where you can reach me. Or personally, Victor_H_Peña on Instagram is where you can get a hold of me there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thanks to everyone for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you guys. Pleasure. We'll see you guys. Bye.